Hey guys, this is Ann Titkemeyer of No Longer Quivering, where I wrote for almost 10 years, and now of myself. I had something interesting fall into my hands this morning. It's actually not some kind of super secret thing. Anybody with access to court records can look at this. It's a protective order that was issued this morning in the Josh Duggar case. And I'm going to read some of it to you. We're going to discuss it. We're going to talk about it just a little bit. The protective order, basically, to break it down, basically what it does is it protects the names of all the child witnesses or child victims. Hey Cheryl, thank you. This is called My Hair is Oily. I'm throwing it up on top of my head too. So they're going to be, they've issued this. I was looking for them to do something like this because anytime you have minor children involved in these cases, there needs to be an order of protection because you'll have people. Hey, Lisa. Hey, Amy. You'll have people, I'm not going to say who, but somebody who called a victim of SA a brat and a spoiled brat on live streams. Somebody like that will go ahead and just say all kinds of awful things about the victims, the kids in the videos. Hey, word puzzle. So let's get into this. I was just looking at it. Someone just sent me this thing. It's the United States of America versus Joshua James Duggar. Okay. It talks about what Josh has been charged with, receipt of child of CP, possession of CP, and it talks about making available discovery material to the defense team. It's sensitive information. Apparently, they want to keep it sensitive information. It needs to be. So, privacy protection, confidentiality of information. A person acting in a capacity described in the subparagraph B in connection with a criminal proceeding shall, number one, keep all documents that disclose the name or any other information concerning a child in a secure place so that no person who does not have reason to know their contents has access. And number two, disclose documents described in clause one or the information in them that concerns your child only to persons who, by the reason of their participation in the proceedings, have a reason to know such information. What does that mean for her? Well, not for her. I'm saying, what does that mean for other people reporting on this or people showing up? Yes, yes. Those are good qualities. You are exactly right. I'm fully expecting her to have one hissy of a fit of a wobbler over this. And the her I'm talking about is Katie Joy Without a Crystal Ball. Because all of this shuts down her talking about it pretty hard. Even if she attends the trial, if she exposes the names of any of the witnesses, any of the kids in those videos, she could be found in contempt of court and go to jail. I'm thinking from the further reading of this that she's not even going to be allowed in court. She's going to be banned. I have a feeling this is going to be a closed courtroom, as well it should be. Anytime you're talking about this sort, no one can investigate, no one talk about it. Amy, you're right. You can talk about it in a general sense like we're doing now, but you can't say little Sally took the stand and said X, Y, and Z. You can't do that. Reading further in this, I'm pretty sure they're not even going to let reporters in. I think that's probably the wise decision. Here's the thing about these CP cases, and I know this from having worked in a place where we actually had a number of child CP victims who had been sold to producers for a crack rock or for $600 or for some small amount of money. This stuff follows people for the rest of their lives. How would you like to be known as the child who starred in Daisy's destruction? How would you like to be known that way, even if your name had been changed? Just think about how that, how unwell that would play, and what kind of complete and total ruination of a child's life as they grow up and they become an adult, a young adult. It would be horrible. Okay, we're going to look at this a little more. Okay, subparagraph A applies to number 1, all employees of the government connected with the case, including employees of the Department of Justice, any law enforcement agency involved in the case, and any person hired by the government to provide assistance in the proceedings. 2, employees of the court. 3, the defendant and employees of the defendant, including the attorney for the defendant and said persons hired by the defendant or the attorney of the defendant to provide assistance in the proceeding. And number 4, members of the jury. So to me, that seems to indicate that there's not going to be any observers that are going to be allowed in. And if they are, they're definitely probably going to be searched for. It's going to be like the case that I tried to get out of. They're going to take any notebooks, any cell phones, anything that you could record the proceedings in any way, shape, or form, or your impressions from you. And they're going to screen who they even allow in. This is a great news story. You were right, Bliss. Someone gave me this news story. Someone gave me this because they did not want someone else to be the first person to talk about this. And she's already making noise that she's going live in a few hours to talk about this. I've scooped her on the death of Gwen Shamblin Lara. I've scooped her on the arrest of Josh Duggar, a number of things. So it's gotten to the point now where people will give me things and say, can you go on before her and explain this in a way that is not sensationalized? So, filing under the seal, all papers to be filed in court that disclose a name or any other information concerning a child should be filed under seal without necessity of obtaining a court order. The person who makes the filing shall submit to the clerk of court, A, the complete paper to be kept under seal, and B, the paper with the portion of it that discloses the name of or other information concerning a child redacted to be placed in the public record. Their protective orders on motion by any person of the court may issue an order protecting a child from public disclosure of the name of or any other information concerning a child in the course of the proceedings. If the court determines there is a significant possibility that such disclosure would be detrimental to the child. Okay, and then there's a protective order issued under subparagraph A, may, number 1, provide that the testimony of the child witness and the testimony of any other witnesses, when the attorney who calls the witness has reason to anticipate that the name of or any other information concerning a child may be divulged in the testimony, be taken in a closed courtroom. Number 2, provide any other measures that may be necessary to protect the privacy of the child. So we're looking at a closed courtroom situation here, basically. Anytime there's going to be any discussion, and this is a CP case, so there's going to be a lot of discussion over victims and the like. Because of that, I don't anticipate a lot of this trial is going to be closed. It's going to be closed courtrooms. There's going to be incredibly redacted documents. Amy, I don't want to hear about a year and a half old either. And that's basically one of the films he downloaded is about the destruction of a small child. I don't want to hear about that either. Who would want to listen to the disgusting details of this? Yeah, so who would want to hear this? I don't want to hear this at all. I've sat in some of these cases before. I've heard and seen the documentation, and it would break your heart on some of this stuff. This is about innocent children. You are absolutely right, Lisa. The most vulnerable to exploit. Easy peasy, says KJ. You are right. Linda says this is so horrific for the children and the families thereof. Absolutely. Absolutely. This is the kind of stuff that will break your heart if you're doing social work. Disclosure of information. Number 4, this subsection does not prohibit disclosure of the name of or other information concerning a child to the defendant, the attorney of the defendant, a multidisciplinary child abuse team, a guardian ad litem, or an adult attendant, or to anyone to whom, in the opinion of the court, disclosure is necessary to the welfare and well-being of the child. Okay, let's talk a little bit about guardian ad litems, because that's not anything I've ever talked about here that we need to talk about. I just want to hear the jail cell door slamming behind Josh's butt and anyone involved in this disgusting acts. Amen. Absolutely. Absolutely. Hey, Christoph, you're not too late. I'm just starting to read through the document and explain it. I want to talk a little bit about guardian ad litem because that mentioned that, and that's not something we've ever talked about here. I've written about it extensively in the book that I've been working on for a long time about the Carol Ann Cole case. A guardian ad litem is somebody that the courts appoint to represent the full interests of a child that's in litigation like this, or there's any kind of question like this. Say if there are allegations of abuse from both parents, and there's a possibility that they're going to change custody, or there's mental health issues. There's a lot of reasons why you would have a guardian ad litem. It's a person who is appointed by the judge that has no dog in this game. No. The person appointed has no skin in the game. They are completely 100% impartial, and their entire existence is to protect the child, to act in every situation in the best interest of the child, not the parents, not the official guardian of record, not the foster care agency, not the foster care parents, not any other agency, just for the child. That's all that a guardian ad litem does. And they weigh in. And the courts do take what they have to say seriously, very seriously. Yeah, that's Amanda. That's the only reason I'm against it too, because Jim Bob will spin that verdict. He'll spin it and say, "Oh, well, this never happened," because we've seen him do that. We saw him do that when Homeland Security came in to do the initial investigation. Hey, Real, thank you so much. My yarn fund is growing every day, and I'm excited. I can't wait to buy a big pile of it, pile it on the bed, and roll on it, and send that picture to our dear friend KJ. They're not always a social worker, Lisa. They can be like, I've seen retired judges act as guardian ad litems. I've seen social workers. I've seen attorneys. I've seen any variety of professionals that actually have a role in the court systems normally, or they're very familiar with the best interests of the child. Those are the kind of people you will see as guardian ad litems. I've even seen one or two members of the clergy, even though they don't try to do that. They usually try to do something that's completely devoid of anything like that. I know he's still allowed to see his children, and they will be. I'm sure they're going to. Yeah, CASA and a lot of places, that's what they do. Not always, but not every place has that either. Absolutely, something does need to be private for the sake of the children's future. This is something that can follow you into your adult life. If you're a child victim of this and you recover from it, it can be law guardians too. Okay, Amy, I did not know that. The system I'm familiar with is guardian ad litem every time. But I know that different jurisdictions have different names for everything. So here we go. And it may be that we see some mixture of public and private in this trial, such as when the children testify or anybody connected with the children, they may clear the courtroom. So it's just the judge, the defendant, the attorneys, and the jury. That may be well what happens. That may be well what we see in this. Let me go back to this document, see if I can get back to it. Somebody asked about CASA, CASA. That's a court-appointed special advocate for a child. Same thing as guardian ad litem. They just call it a little bit different name. Okay. So there's more about this, some about the U.S. Code section and knowing an intentional violation of the privacy protections. They warn against that. The protective order applies to all discovery. It says for this. It gives some definitions here. It says for the purpose of defense order, this is what discovery means. This is what the defense team means. Under this, sensitive information is defined here as a witness's name, school, social media names, handles or user IDs, home address, birthday, photographs or visual depictions, and or any other information required to be redacted by the federal rule of criminal procedures. Now, I can't wait for Emily D. Baker to break down this document because Emily's a lawyer. I am not a lawyer. I'm approaching this just from what I know, which is from more what happens on the social work end and the end of an abused child in a treatment facility. So I can't wait until Emily breaks this down, and you know she will. So here's a warning. The defense team shall maintain all sensitive information in a manner consistent with the terms of this protective order. In other words, they can't release any of the information. Any sensitive information is filed with the court in connection with pretrial motions. So it's talking about everything. Pretrial motions, trial, sentencing, and any other matter before the court shall be filed under seal and shall remain sealed until otherwise ordered by this court. And they give a U.S. statute 18 U.S.C. 3509D. It says you can refer to them only as minor victim number one, number two, whatever. And it says the defense team is prohibited from directly or indirectly providing access to or otherwise disclosing the substance of sensitive information to anyone not working on the defense of this case. Sensitive information may be left with or given to the defendant outside the presence and supervision of another attorney on the defense team. And it says the defense team shall not transfer, disseminate, or send any discovery containing sensitive information outside of the U.S., the United States, without the defendant's counsel of record, providing the United States with 10 days written advance notice of the defense team's intention to send discovery outside the United States. Wow. Exactly why they would think that would be sent outside the United States, who knows? Who knows? But I think at this point, they're covering all their bases, the court is, so that there's none of this could get out. Information is knowledge and power. You are absolutely right, Lisa. It is. It really is. And that's what's scary to me about this, because you have people that don't have any knowledge of this that are talking about this. And even my own little scant knowledge of this that I'm sharing with you about, guardian ad litem, CASA, and all that, I don't pretend to know it all. It's the hard work of the guardians, yeah. I know the burnout rate is high, Cheryl. You were exactly right. I've been on the receiving end and been venting sometimes for some cases, and you can't use any kind of identifying information at all. And foster care cases, Perry, can really be complex. This jury, yeah, they're gonna have some difficulty, I think, even finding enough people to sit on jury. I'm curious to see if they're gonna have to change jurisdiction. Dark web services are international, so they're likely blocking subpoenas for information. Carrie, I hadn't thought about that, but that is very likely true. The dark web is never going to cooperate unless they're forced to do so. Guardian ad litems can be used for any number of things involving children, not just foster care. Even when you have, say, two parents, they're both valid and good places to place a child or fighting custody, you may have a guardian ad litem involved so that they can determine exactly what the best interest of the child is, because it may not be what you would think. Okay, let's go back to this. So they can use the discovery and sensitive information only for preparation and litigation in this matter and no other purpose. Okay, so they're prohibited for using it for anything other than that. And it says the defense team shall either return all discovery containing sensitive information to the United States Attorney's Office for the Western District of Arkansas, or destroy all discovery containing sensitive information and thereby certify to the United States Attorney's Office that it has been destroyed. Okay, and here's something where they have to discuss the protective order with their client, the counsel for the defendant, and he has to agree to be bound by all the terms. Required to give a copy of this protective order to all individuals engaged or consulted by the defense counsel to assist in this case. That would mean that, say, if they brought his own children in, his wife would have to have a copy of this order and understand what it meant. And I expect that, knowing the Duggars, they're probably going to bring in oodles of character references and possibly children to say, oh, this has never happened to us. He's a stand-up guy. I expect to see that will happen. Lisa, I'm wondering about that too. I am wondering about that too. Apparently, that Amy, everything I've been reading recently is addressed towards the defense attorneys. There's like a page and a half. The protective orders, I'm not really sure on that, except to say it's with the children. The likely harm, you're right, won't help his case. None of that's going to help his case. Most of this is going to be under wraps, even if they do find a jury and they find a jurisdiction that's Lisa, I'm not really sure about that. I'm not sure why they haven't charged KJ with any of that, because she did willfully violate twice the orders that the court put on people being able to witness this as media. I think there's a possibility we're going to see a restriction, a tight restriction of all media of the trial. So she's talking about going and hanging out with Amy and going to hang out at the trial. I don't think that's going to happen. I think she'll go to Arkansas and hang out with Amy, but I don't think it'll do her any good. I think they're going to have her. They're going to have her on block. Amanda, that is right. It's going to be disgusting. It's going to be a disgusting sight when they trot everybody through there to see he's the best guy on the planet. Bliss, Chris. I wish we could put your dad and stepmom on the jury. Prairie, it did take them a long time to take action with Josh, but here's one thing I do know about them, about the feds. They cross every T, they dot every I. They are almost certain to win. They're almost certainly lined up to win before they even arrest anybody. They have a 97% conviction rate. I think he's going to go down. I don't think there's any way around it. Yeah, she is real. She really is. Carrie, I think you're right. Their strategy is likely to limit his acts to solely watching. That's what they're going to try to say, and deny any actual acts against children. I'm sure that's what their defense is going to be. And the other thing I think that they're going to say is they're going to say, wasn't me. Somebody downloaded on that to set me up. I think that's what they're going to say. Amy, she better start sucking up to court TV if she wants to cover it at all. I'm almost done with the document. The only thing left is number 14, is agreeing to the entry of this protective order. Defendant and the defense team do not concede and expressly reserve the right to contest that any of the United States allegations against the defendant are true, or that any of the defendant's actions would have resulted in any person becoming a victim. So ordered, signed off on, Fayetteville, Arkansas. The Honorable Timothy L. Brooks, United States District Judge. And then there's a signature by the acting United States Attorney and one that represents Josh's side. And we're out. So that's the document. She's going to spin this and just, you're right, Prairie. They're going to F him all the way up. And he's going to end up in one of those federal prisons, pound me in the rear end prisons. He's going to blame it all. At least he's going to blame all the employees of the car lot. It was the Biden's fault. Actually, I saw something by his wife blaming the Bidens for all of this, which I thought was kind of an interesting way to do. You're right, Prairie. They don't care about status or celebrity. They go after the bad guys, and it looks like Josh is a bad guy. I don't care how his family spins this. There's no way to get out of this. This is going to be one of those things that's going to take him down. Now, how that affects the rest of the family, who knows at this point? Oh, God, I got apple juice. Not an apple juice fan, but here it is. I don't know why I ended up with apple juice instead of my usual grapefruit, but there it is. Suppressed. Yeah. I think what's going to happen is they're going to convict him. If they can find a decent jury, I don't see any way, knowing the federal government and what the kind of evidence they have, they're probably going to get a conviction. He's probably going to do some time. How much time? I don't know. I don't know if his family's status and fame is going to have any kind of effect on any of this. I kind of think it's not, because the film that he downloaded was the worst of the worst and quite expensive. I can't imagine him spending that kind of money to view any kind of pornography. Hadn't he ever heard of Pornhub? But then again, everybody on Pornhub is over 18. Small fish lead to big fish. Yes. Yes, and Anna is completely convinced about that Biden theory. She thinks this is a Biden. Here's what she's not understanding. This investigation started under Donald Trump. It started during the Trump administration, not Biden. Biden is just following through on what Trump's own U.S. district attorneys have come up with, what the Homeland Security came up with. And it's one of those things, I don't care who is in office. I don't care if you vote Democrat, Republican, Independent, for Tiger King. This is just one of those things that is so heinous that they need to prosecute to the full extent of the law. If you look at and this is one of those things that they do, that's a high priority, because the victims are all children. No matter how that dead stare, Stepford wife smile can deny or spin this by that mom and dad. Yeah, and my understanding is I'm hearing whispers that the Duggar family is kind of trying to distance themselves from this. It's not just Jill and Derek trying to distance themselves. It's not just Amy. It's everybody. Apparently, Jim Bob is apparently disgusted with him. You're right, Amanda. Even 4 or 5 years behind bars would be a wake-up call. Unless he goes to one of those country club federal prisons. But I don't see that happening. I don't. Linda, this is, yeah, exactly. That's one reason why you have to use some discretion when you ever allow your children on the internet. We went through that at our house when my daughter was like 14. There was a big row because she had exposed a friend of hers that had written this name list of names of people that she hated. And that spun into a big crazy thing in our town that somehow the list went from who the little girl hated to everybody in town thinking it was a hit list. And that went rather insane. You're right. There are decent people all the way around, Prairie. I know that. I know that. I know that. I don't think they're going to, yeah, he won't go to Fed Cupcake. There's no way. If they convict him of this, I suspect they're going to send him somewhere a little more hardcore than that, because this is one of those offenses that's not like, it's not like, say, Michael Cohen going to Otisville and working in the um he was working in the sanitation department where they were running sewage plant, but still that prison was Fed Cupcake compared to a lot of the ones that you could be sent to. I think he should automatically get the largest amount, Amy, but I don't think he will. I think that he's going to try to make a deal. I think one of the things that he's going to say is this was not his fault because of the way he was raised, that his parents are culpable because they raised him to believe that sexuality was abnormal and wrong. And we all know that's not true. Sexuality, developing sexuality as a teenager, it's an important part of our development. And being made to feel guilty about that, and sex always being off limits, yet shoved in your face by your parents, the way they're acting in front of you all the time. He's going to say that this is his parents' fault for the way they acted, the fact they did not get him any kind of treatment after the situation with his sisters. I think he's going to throw them under the bus hard during this. I just have a feeling, because he's already made a couple of statements apparently that lead one to believe that that's going to be his defense. I just want to see when um, when the reality of this is going to hit him. Every time we've seen him come up on, say, one of the hearings, he's got that stupid smirk on his face. He was giggling last time, laughing a little bit during some of the proceedings. You know, if I was facing that kind of charge and that kind of time, well, just that kind of time, any kind of time, should I get guilty when the cops get behind me and I'm driving and I've done nothing wrong? So, for the life of me, I cannot understand his laid back, goofy smirk. Okay, I could kind of understand that when he turned himself in, because I was looking at him thinking, he looks like he has had several Valiums. He has had a Xanax. He's having a Xanny time, a Xanny bar. He's having a time of extreme relaxation there. He knew that the media would be swarming this thing. He knew that that mugshot would go around the world. And I know in Bundy Town, they tell you with mugshots to always be smiling. Because if you're not smiling and you're are freaking out looking, that's the image that will be shown. But I know with politicians, especially, they say that. That's why they're all grinning like they've won the lottery a lot of times. I haven't been watching Michelle, so I don't know if she has lost a whole bunch of weight. Very likely if she has, because this, I can't imagine. I've said this before. I have a son that's exactly the same age as Josh Duggar. And for the life of me, I cannot imagine what it would be like to have this happen in public where everybody's looking and you're quasi famous and he's quasi famous. I just cannot, I can't imagine the stress would that be. The officer was in jail for 54 years. It was involved with Josh. We dragged as well. I'm sure he will be. He'll throw him in and say, well, he should have done something. I'm sure that's exactly what his defense is going to be. Aunt Amanda, same thing. I thought he was on some kind of benzo. I was going in for that time turn in. And I don't blame him for that. Anybody would be, because the charges are so serious. And you don't want to freak out while they're putting the cuffs on you and they're, sending you in and all that. At least I don't think so. I think I would be in a benzo haze too. I can't blame him for that. I can't blame him for the smirk on the mug shot, because I think anybody would be understandably in a benzo haze facing that. Prairie, I don't care for Michelle either. I don't have much concern for her at all. I feel bad for her, but you're right. They did show poor judgment with everything they did and how they handled it. I keep referring back to the Megyn Kelly special, the 2 nights that she interviewed the Duggars about what had happened with Josh when he was a teenager. And I think it's disgusting and loathful. It's awful that they drug Jill and Jessa into the spotlight to talk about this. At that point, no one had outed the names of any of the victims. Nobody had said, victim A is this, victim B is this. No one but the Duggars did. And they're turning around and they're suing Arkansas for this, saying that the police outed the names of the victims. Oh no, those documents were redacted. They are the ones that outed the names of the victims of Josh. And yeah, realification is one of those people who can jump off the bridge, as far as I'm concerned, too. And the same thing, because it's just loathful. It's just awful. I just cannot. It would be unbearable, Lisa. I would be in that benzo haze if that was my son. I just cannot. I cannot comprehend what that would be like. And that's the compassion I have for her. I have the compassion of knowing that's possibly the most awful thing that you can live through in your life. Knowing that the child that you raised, that you nurtured, that you breastfed is capable of doing something like this. Amy, I think the church can tell a bunch of females. I don't know who that is. I'm not answering that. Anybody calling me on my Skype account? I don't know the number. I'm not picking up. They charge me for that stuff here. Okay, there we go. So, yeah, trying to deal with this at home without proper therapy made Josh an entitled monster. Exactly, Lisa. That's how we got here. When you tell your child that all sexuality is evil, that everything they're feeling as they're changing and growing when they're having adolescence is just Amanda, it might be one of my Nubian lovers. Let me get whoever it is. They keep calling. It might be my Nubian lover. More likely it's somebody telling me that the warranty on my car is about to expire. I get a lot of those. Cass, yeah, I just read the document and broke it down. It's a 6-page document. Thank you, Jenna. Thank you, my yarn fun. Thank you so much. Misty, I don't think they deserve any compassion. But I still think if you call yourself a Christian, you have to at least say, I'm sorry for your pain. I mean, they did bring this on themselves. That still doesn't make it painful. Oh, I'm sorry, Amy. Yeah, I'm very ADD, as you can tell. I think that the church, or the Duggars, I'm not sure about their church situation now, can order people to do that. And I think they'll do it. We saw that with the Jack Shope trial. Jack Shope, if you didn't know, ran the IFB. He was the head of First Baptist Church of Hammond, Indiana. He ran the Hyles-Anderson College. He was a big one. He was counseling a 16-year-old girl who'd been sexually abused, and he started sleeping with her. He started having an inappropriate relationship. It came out, the FBI got involved. The FBI got involved because he kept bringing her across state lines to have sex with her in violation of the Mann Act. And they busted him. They had information. They busted him because a parishioner saw his cell phone and saw inappropriate language between the two of them and turned him in. And then the police got involved and the FBI got involved and they found him guilty. They found him guilty. And he basically said that he couldn't be charged for this. He didn't think he'd done anything wrong. He denied it. He finally pled guilty when they said, well, if you plead guilty, we're going to ask for 10 years. He pled guilty, and the federal judge that looked at the lawsuit and looked at the evidence and looked at everything said, ain't no way. You are not getting 10 years. This is serious. You hold a authority position. You are going to get, I think it was 14 years. We're giving you additional time. So he freaked out after that. And one of the things that he did was he had all of his parishioners write to courts, show up and say what a good guy he was, show up with all these documents showing that he was the greatest thing since Jesus. And it didn't fly well with the courts. And they've been trying to overturn that verdict on the grounds that he was a good guy. They didn't stick with the 10 years, but I think that is going to play that way if they try that. And Jenny, I wonder about that too. The sanctity of the marriage. He's already cheated so many times. Anybody else would have left, I think, by now. It's pretty humiliating. And that's one of those pains that I don't see how you can forgive. So, that age, yeah. And he's a young man. He's a relatively young man, even though he does look middle-aged now. He's a young man. He's got the rest of his life ahead of him. Unfortunately, that rest of life is going to be, oh, thank you, B. My yarn fun is very happy today. This is going to be one of those things where it's make or break time for him. Say he does get jail time, long jail time. At least there at that point. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Casti. Thank you so much. My yarn fun is exploding, and I'm happy about that because it's too hard to get yarn here. I think that this is a turning point for Josh. I don't want to sound too Pollyanna, but if he goes to jail, he's going to get enough time where he'll be able to get therapy for everything that's happened to him. If he's in the right facility, there's going to be, oh yeah, and congratulations on that job. That's the best thing ever, getting the right kind of job. It's going to be make it or break it time for him. He'll have opportunities for education. He'll have opportunities for therapy. He won't, oh, thank you. Thank you, Christoph fan. My yarn fun is happy today. That's likely going to happen, Jenna. I would hate to see anybody abused in prison, but let's face it, people are involved in what Josh did. I can't even say the words because of YouTube. People who are involved in that, they end up paying the price. The prisoners look down on them as the lowest of the low. People who harm children and harm women do bad time. I expect he's going to be in solitary more than the average guy because of that. Oh, the protective order, Angela, just outlined that the names of the children could not be used and no identifying information. That they said it in 6 pages, basically. So that's going to stop certain yackers from going to the trial and hearing everything because there are portions that are going to be privatized, and I don't think that's a bad thing necessarily. Lisa, you're likely right. Very little will penetrate that noggin, but a girl has to hope. I'm one of those people, I always hope the best for everybody. I can look at these horrible situations and say, yeah, that's bad, but I hope that the X, Y, and Z happens. And I still hope that for him because, like I said, he's a relatively young man. Even if he gets 20 years, he still won't be like at death's door. He'll still have plenty of time left in his life to actually do good. Even though I know that child CP people who do that stuff, who are attracted to that, they don't change that. That is never affected with therapy. I've seen studies where they've done castration on these guys, chemical castration. It doesn't stop them. If they're the kind of guy that's their thing, guess what? That is always their thing. There's no therapy for it. Likely he's going to need to be under some kind of lockup for the rest of his life. And that's really unfortunate. Okay, you guys, I am going to go. It's been 45 minutes. And KJ said on video, if I went to trial, you could not pay her to go. That'll change when there's money to be made. I've seen her say both things. I've seen her say, I'm going to trial. And I've heard her say, I am not going to trial. So who knows? Who knows at this point what she's going to do? Whatever it will be, we'll be discussing it. It will be amusing, I'm sure. You know, I've been keeping, since before the trial, I've been keeping notes on every weird thing in our communities. And part of it is because since I started taking lyric, I have no brain, no memory. But a large part of it is because I'm looking at writing a book about this thing. I'm still working on my books. This whole thing with her has slowed me down considerably. My husband's been after me, so I need to finish up. And that's what I'm starting to do now. I'm staying offline long periods of time so I can finish. All right, you guys, have an awesome, awesome day. I'm getting ready to get into the pool. It's gray and nasty outside, but that has never stopped me from swimming. I'll see you guys later. Thanks for all the super chats.